G'day, it's John O'Brake here from The Forge Leader with Monday Myth Check number 9. Now, Monday Myth Check is where we look at commonly held beliefs, thoughts, sayings, motivational pieces, and we hold them up to the light and say, are they really true? Are there boundaries where maybe they do work really well and don't work in others? We're now on our 9th one, and today we're talking about micromanagement gets better results. Now, this one might seem a little obvious, but at the end of the day, I come across a lot of micromanagers, so to speak. I don't think anybody's a true micromanager, like I don't believe anyone's a true narcissist. People have these tendencies where they tend to control tightly, watch closely. People feel like they're not trusted and that sort of thing. So let's dive into a couple of things in terms of how we look at micromanagement and how this idea of tightly managing, tightly controlling my team doesn't necessarily get us the better results. So the first one is obviously this idea that we want our team members to own the space that they're in, right? Let's look at a few things here. You hire good people for the roles that you're hiring for. Hopefully they're adults, right? Even if it's a 15 or a 16-year-old, hopefully they're mature enough to make good decisions. I learned this in one of my first business books that I read. It was called Maverick. And it was the story about a guy taking over his father's manufacturing business. And one of the things that manufacturing is famous for is that very command and control style leadership. And he said, my guys, these people are adults, so let's treat them like that. And this is a good one to stop and pause and think about. If you've got team members, people around you, are you treating them like adults, the adults that they are? If you're not, you need to change course. Obviously, this idea of ownership and accountability becomes really important. Your team wants to be accountable. They will actually, if you let them, they'll actually set really good goals. So the whole idea is then allowing them to get after the things that they need to get after and not just hovering around all the time and picking on certain areas and making sure. Now, sure, there are times when things don't work out. Maybe you find out you've got the wrong person on team and they're not pulling their weight. Maybe they're doing the quiet quitting, so to speak, where they're just not engaged. But that's on you as a leader to figure out how you get around that. So obviously, we don't want to see reduced employee accountability and we don't want to see reduced ownership. And so that's one of the big challenges, that micromanagement doesn't always get more stuff done. And so the other one is that if I'm micromanaging, so it all comes back to me or comes back to a leader, and that we're going to see a dramatic slowdown in terms of decision making, in terms of energy around what has to be done, in terms of handling challenges and crises as they come along. All these different things. I was working with a guy and he was complaining about the number of his team members that called him just for basic advice that they should know better. And I just simply asked him, do you answer the phone? He says, yes, every time, because they expect me to. I said, that's the problem. They expect you to. So it's not these guys are good guys. They're smart. They know the business. They knew what they got to do. But because their leader was just so available, they just use that more and more. And so we started to see these slower decisions. If he wasn't available, they would stop work. And that became a bit of a problem. So again, we can see slowdowns if people aren't empowered. It comes back to point one, reducing the ownership, accountability and so forth. But if people have to wait for you or someone to make a decision and it's unnecessary, then that's a slowdown. That's a problem. And that's where micromanagement doesn't get us better results. A third one to think about, and obviously there are a lot, but a third one would be the fact that we end up in a place where we just don't have any innovation or problem solving. We actually addressed this in the very first Monday Myth Check, failure is not an option, and the environment that can create. But at the end of the day, if I'm micromanaging everything and everything has to come through me and I'm detail everything and it's got to be my way and it's got to be done this, well, I don't feel like I can hand that over to you, all those sorts of things, then your team is just not going to innovate. They're going to be too afraid to. It doesn't mean they can't. They're just going to be too afraid to. So what we need to think about is if I've got a team that's not innovating, often I've got what I would call a tightly managing leader or someone who doesn't trust their team to come up with new ideas or is too afraid to fail or whatever it might be. So all of those things are very important. So what can we do about it? Just think about this. How can you set clear expectations? How can you develop trust in your team? This is this fundamental place. Where are you going? What's your vision? How are you inspiring that shared vision? How are you modeling leadership and success? How are you allowing your team to fail in guarded environments where failure is okay? What's the legacy you're going to create in these people's lives? And then also thinking about what are some great feedback loops that allow people to collaboratively make choices and keep things moving rapidly and often without you. if you're an entrepreneur or you're a solopreneur or a business leader, one of the greatest things you can do is, as you step back more and allow your team to do their thing, one of the greatest signs that you've been successful is you're able to take some time off. And guess what? Your business gets better without you. Micromanagement does not get us better results. It's really simple. It's not even a maybe, but we still do it. If you are a micromanager or you manage tightly and closely because you're concerned about that space, then you need to think about what are the other things that you need to introduce to be able to get to a place where you can allow your team to help you grow. You can trust them, you can build them up and make this really work out for you. I'm John O'Brake. This is Monday Myth Check. Micromanagement does not necessarily get us better results. Enjoy the journey.